Yo, copping a 100 mil mansion isn't just about finding a place to crash. You're basically buying a whole business. And that 9-figure price tag? That's legit just the cover charge to get in the door. The day-to-day reality of owning a spot like this is a financial beast that gobbles up millions of bucks a year just to keep the lights on. It's a level of liability so wild that it's made old money families straight up ditch their ancestral cribs. And yet, the world's richest ballers are still out here hunting for these trophy properties with some kind of next-level obsession. So why would the super rich knowingly sign up for this kind of money pit? Straight up, the answer is way more complex and calculated than you'd think. It pulls back the curtain on a hidden world where a house isn't just a home, but a killer tool for privacy, keeping your bag safe, and straight up flexing. Today, we're going to break down the wild, real-world costs of owning a 100 mil property and get into the tea on why anyone would take on that headache. We'll answer 2 questions. What does it actually cost to run one of these properties, and why the hell would you buy it in the first place? When you cop a 100 mil property, you're not just getting keys, you're inheriting a whole damn business. While there's a rule of thumb in real estate that annual upkeep is about 1 to 2% of a home's value, for a property this massive, the costs can dead-ass blow way past that. In some cases, owners can expect to drop 3 to 5 million bucks a year before they've even had a single homie over for dinner. Let's see where all that cheddar is going. The biggest check you'll have to fork over every year is almost always for property taxes. Let's use Beverly Hills, a global hotspot for megacribs, as our example. Under California's Prop 13, when a $100 million property sells, it gets reassessed at its new sale price. The base tax rate is 1% of that value. After you tack on all the local fees for schools and public services, the real tax rate is usually between 1.1 and 1.25%. So for the new owner of a 100 mil estate, that's an immediate, recurring annual tax bill of like 1.1 to 1.25 million right off the rip. But location is everything. The fact that Beverly Hills is its own city is a huge W because it's exempt from LA's Measure ULA, the so-called mansion tax. That law slaps an extra 4 to 5.5% tax on property sales over certain amounts within LA city limits. By buying in Beverly Hills instead of, say, Bel Air or Brentwood, a buyer of a $100 million home dodges what could have been a one-time tax hit of over $5 million. Then there's insurance, which for a custom-built palace in a high-risk area like California or Florida has become a total financial nightmare, for real. After years of getting hammered by wildfires and hurricanes, big insurance companies have basically ghosted California on writing new policies. A standard policy just ain't gonna cut it for a home like this. You need a specialized plan from a high-net-worth carrier like Chubb or AIG, but getting that coverage is stupid expensive. In a high-risk zone, annual premiums for a $100 million home can easily run you from $300K to $600K, though that number can swing wildly based on the home's exact location and fireproofing features. If you can't get private insurance, you're forced onto the California Fair Plan, the state's insurer of last resort. But its residential coverage maxes out at just $3 million, a drop in the bucket for an estate worth 30 times that much. On top of that, these homes need separate policies for stuff like earthquakes, where deductibles are often set between 5 and 25% of the property's value. For a $100 million home, that means the owner could be on the hook for the first 5 to 25 million of damage out of pocket before insurance pays a single cent. On top of all that, you have the endless war against decay. There's a saying in real estate to budget 1% of a home's value for yearly maintenance. On a $100 million property, that's at least $1 million a year, no cap. And we're not just talking about mowing the lawn. This is about managing an asset that runs like a small 5-star hotel. It's bougie. Think about the scale. A 40,000 square foot mansion needs commercial-grade HVAC, acres of sick landscaping, and massive pools, all needing constant professional care. The materials alone require special teams, acres of Italian marble that needs polishing, rare woods that need climate-controlled rooms, and custom smart home tech that needs an on-call IT squad. One Beverly Hills agent broke down the monthly upkeep for an empty mansion, which included $1,500 for the pool, $2,500 for gardeners, and $7,000 for limestone and wood specialists. That's a baseline of 40 grand a month just to keep an empty house from looking like a dump. A $100 million mansion also doesn't run itself. It needs a full-time professional staff, like a modern-day Downton Abbey, and the payroll can easily be one of the biggest annual hits to the wallet. These aren't part-time gigs. For example, a top-tier estate manager, who's basically the CEO of the property, can rake in a salary from $150K to $250K or more. A full-time private chef might be bagging between $100K and $200K. Add a team of housekeepers, gardeners, materials techs, and personal assistants, and the annual payroll quickly climbs into the high six figures. Then there's security. For a high-profile owner, privacy is everything. Bet. A 24/7 security detail is standard. Depending on the size and training of the team, a dedicated security presence can easily cost another $500K or more a year. All in all, the payroll to run the estate can blow past $1 million a year. Finally, it's easy to forget about the utility bills, but at this scale, they're no joke. The cost to heat, cool, and power tens of thousands of square feet, including rooms you barely use, heated pools, and commercial-grade kitchens can be nuts. It's not out of the question for annual utility bills to run well into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, really driving home the point that this ain't a house, it's a business. So how do the ultra-rich actually cop these places? People think every 9-figure deal is just a simple cash transaction, but that's a total myth. While a lot of buyers do pay in cash to keep things clean and debt-free, a surprising number use some slick financing. They don't just roll into a bank and ask for a jumbo mortgage. Instead, they often work with private banks to get portfolio loans. This lets them borrow against their other assets like stocks, bonds, or art, often at some sweet interest rates. It's a big brain move to get their hands on a trophy property without having to sell off their other investments, keeping their cash working for them in the market. This brings us to the central mystery. Given these massive and endless bills, why would any sane person buy a $100 million mansion? The answer is that for this tiny slice of the population, these cribs aren't just about a place to live. They're strategic assets that do a few key things. First, in a world of wild stock markets and sketch currencies, a trophy property in a major global city like London, New York, or Beverly Hills is seen as a stable, physical store of value. It's a way to turn digital money into a hard asset that ain't so tied to the daily mood swings of the financial markets. For someone worth billions, parking a chunk of that wealth in a world-class property is a defensive play. It's often called a safety deposit box with a view. While these homes are expensive to run and hard to flip quickly, the goal ain't a quick buck. It's about owning a piece of limited, super desirable land that historically held its value over the long haul. These properties are also powerful financial tools. Financial gurus are always telling you to diversify, and ultra-luxury real estate is a big part of that. These properties are often uncorrelated with the stock market, meaning they can hold their value or even go up when stocks are tanking, acting as a buffer in a massive portfolio. More than that, they can be used as collateral to get loans for other business ventures or investments. The mansion itself becomes a financial cornerstone that provides cash flow without making the owner actually sell the spot. But it's not all about the Benjamins. These homes provide returns that you can't put a price tag on. They are the ultimate flex, private stages for hosting fundraisers or high-key meetings, and personal sanctuaries offering a level of security and privacy that is, for some, priceless.
And maybe most importantly, these estates are seen as legacy assets. They are bought with the plan of being held in a family for generations, passed down through trusts designed to protect the family's bag. In that sense, a magnificent home becomes more than just property. It becomes a real part of a family's identity and their clout in the world. So, is a 100 mil mansion an investment? Well, the answer ain't a simple yes or no. Given the insane carrying costs, it's pretty much impossible to make bank by renting it out. Instead, it's better to think of it as a hybrid. It's part status symbol, the kind of thing that gets hotter the more expensive it gets, and part long-term hard asset in a much bigger wealth strategy. The main takeaway is this: a 100 mil mansion is less a home and more a high-maintenance business. The buy is driven by an owner's need for privacy, status, and a place to physically park their dough. The decision is made knowing full well that it will cost millions a year to keep, but for the handful of people on the planet who can swim it, that's just the price of admission for an asset that checks so many strategic boxes at once. In the end, the economics of a 100 mil mansion is a whole nother world. It's both a staggering financial liability and a slick financial tool. The eye-watering
Price tag is just the tip of the iceberg, followed by non-stop annual costs that can easily top 3, 4, or even 5 milli. And yet, for the super rich, it makes a weird kind of sense. It's a move driven less by wanting a house and more by the complex needs of managing and holding on to a fat stack of cash. These ain't just homes. They are fortresses of capital, monuments to success, and anchors for a family's legacy. So what's your take? Is a 100 mil mansion the ultimate flex or the ultimate financial fail? Drop it in the comments below, and if you vibe with this look into the economics of extreme luxury, smash that subscribe button for more breakdowns of what things really cost. Thanks for watching!